Hi, everybody coming in. I'm doing some checking on the background here. Hi, Rennie. Can you tell me if you can hear and see everything okay? If you'll drop that in the chat for me, that would be great. True to normal webinar weather, we're in the middle of a thunderstorm type of thing happening. So I just always have to tell you guys on the front end, if I disappear for any reason, just stay put. I'll come back in and I'll reconnect. Thank you so much for letting me know that, Rennie. I appreciate it. So I'm going to give it just a moment and make sure that everything's up to speed on this end and that we let people get a moment to come in, and then we'll do a recap on what we're talking about with thyroid and the endocrine system. And we'll jump right back in where we left off last week, talking about labs and all of that good stuff. So in the chat, I would love to, thunderstorms there too, right, Rennie? Yeah, and just as an FYI, if you guys hear a dog crying and I have to situate her, it's just part of the deal, having a dog who's afraid of thunderstorms and fireworks. So just as an FYI, I would love to see in the chat if you guys have had a chance to, first of all, were you here last week for thyroid training #1? And if not, and you're here for the first time, did you get a chance to watch the first video? So I'd love to see that. And then we'll get started here. Hold on a moment. Yeah, wonderful. Okay. Let me also change this. So if you guys want to chat amongst yourselves, I'm going to change it to where you guys can see, the panelists and attendees can see each other. So any questions can go down in that Q&A on the bottom of your screen. If you're new to Zoom, it just says Q&A. Just simply click that and put your questions there. All right, and then I will do a screen share check real quick here. And you didn't know about the first video, Teresa. Okay, fantastic. Well, you've registered for this one. And so when you get the replay for this one, we're including the link to go watch the first one. So you'll get everything from the beginning. It is about an hour long or so, and it's over the same guide today. So I'll do a real quick recap, and I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Hold on a moment. First, let me pull up the document here. And if somebody could let me know that you can see my screen, I'm going to check the chat and let me know if it's there real quick. Yes, thank you, Rennie. You're on it today. Okay. All right. So today I'm going to go ahead and just recap a couple of things here. Let's slide back to the beginning of the guide. Just bear with me. I think I'm on the right page here, but I want to make sure. So just to scroll through and talk about what we've already touched on. You know, we talked about what the actual thyroid is and what its function is and where it's located. And then as a reminder to everyone, as I'm scrolling through here, I'm showing you the links that you have at the end of each chapter. So, you know, this is really a thyroid guide and training 101, so to speak, because I try to present in a way that's friendly to the general public, people who aren't in the medical field, even though this guide is used by health coaches all over the world. So your links are at the end here. If you want to take things a lot deeper and you want to dive into the medical terminology and all of the things that are out there now, thyroid is not it's a topic that's been around for a really long time. People have been training on this and talking about this for years. It has just, I would say, in the last, that I know of anyway, 7 to 8 years, really started to make its way into mainstream, where everyone has a book or a guide or a training or a course or something that you can learn about thyroid, and everyone has something to offer here. So, you know, what you learn from me and what I give you as resources to take further, you guys, you're going to learn all kinds of things if you go ahead and do that. Okay. So remember that I want to say this, I want to stay on this point right here, because the goal in doing these trainings on Wednesdays and providing you guys with education and information is to give you more freedom and independence from the health and medical system that we are under right now, from the conventional health and medical system, and sometimes the functional one as well. And so I want to remind you that you are always going to be the expert in your health. When a doctor presents to you, when you go to a doctor and they tell you that your labs are normal, this is something that thyroid patients and clients hear all the time, your labs are normal, there's nothing wrong with you, then they are not listening to the person. And this is the term I coined many years ago called the paper versus the person syndrome. When doctors trust the labs more than they trust the patient's symptoms then get dismissed and their symptoms continue. Sadly, this is actually something that is so common. I think out of all the hundreds of people I've helped with thyroid, 99% of them were told that they were fine when they really, truly weren't, and things could have been prevented a lot sooner than they were. So just know that if this is you, or you have been told that, or you've been down the rabbit hole of trying to figure out what's wrong with you and no one's ever helped you before, you are not alone. It's very common. And sadly, you know, thyroid problems, Hashimoto's is the most common autoimmune condition there is, and it's missed a lot more than many autoimmune disorders. You hear more about rheumatoid arthritis and lupus than you do about Hashimoto's, and that's a crime, because Many times Hashimoto's is the first thing that shows up for people. Okay, so we talked about the, again, the location of the gland, why it's important to understand the location of the gland. And again, I'm just going to scroll quickly so we can get to today's lesson. Talked about autoimmunity, the types of thyroid disease that there is. There's Graves and there's Hashimoto's. And then, of course, we've got a whole section on autoimmunity, so you can learn about the hundreds of autoimmune diseases out there and how you can prevent them through using things like food and lifestyle. And then, of course, again, resources at the end. Each one of these links will take you out. And this guide has been updated since we last met last week. My amazing team member Shannon took care of all of that for us. So if you have purchased the guide or the training on this, they should all be up to date for you guys. All right. And then we went into, hold on a moment, scrolling down to what each one of these autoimmune diseases are and how they present. And of course, resources for you guys to learn more. And then we got into doctors and important labs. And this is kind of where we are going to pick up today about lab testing and so on. So I want to stop right here for just a moment and talk about the gold standard lab testing one more time real quick. And I'm going to pull up an article that I'm going to refer to about this. So for those of you who are not familiar, the TSH, the thyroid stimulating hormone, is usually the one thing that they will test for. And they say that, well, your TSH is fine, even though the levels are normally out of range, and you're fine. You're totally fine, which is most of the time, if someone is having thyroid symptoms, it's not true. Okay. So why is the TSH lab test useless? Well, it's not, I don't say it's useless. Okay. Because I think it has purpose. It really lets us know if the pituitary gland and the thyroid are communicating with each other, if they're talking to each other, if, you know, they're sharing a message, right? So what endocrinologists say versus what our experience says with this is that the TSH lab is a reliable physiological marker of thyroid function, right? This is what doctors are saying. So a patient might say reliable. Well, if patients are held to the TSH lab results rather than an optimal free T3 and free T4, which we talked about last week. Remember, I drew you guys a picture. Free T4 turns into free T3. That arrow that drives in, goes to free T3, creates that fuel that gets into your cells and creates metabolic health for you, right? Why do people continue to have symptoms if that TSH is normal? Well, most of the time they don't test the free T3 and free T4. So they don't know how much deeper we can go. And we're going to go into that in just a moment. I need to move my, my menu bar up here a moment. So this page right here is in the guide. So you can go here and you can kind of learn all about the things, you know, that go along with this myth of this being the gold standard. So the pituitary gland, which we were just talking about, secretes the thyroid stimulating hormone, the TSH, as a messenger. It's actually a pituitary hormone and not a thyroid hormone, okay? Its purpose is to knock on the door of the thyroid and meet the demands of one's body. The TSH also knocks and goes higher and higher if the thyroid gland becomes diseased or disabled and fails to do its job adequately, called hypothyroidism. Or if the thyroid gland gets on an exercise bicycle and overproduces the thyroid hormones, it's called hyperthyroidism or Graves' disease. So the TSH lab will theoretically go low, okay? So to distinguish between the two, if someone has hypothyroidism, they have a higher TSH, slowing the thyroid down. If someone has hyperthyroidism or Graves' disease, the TSH will go down and the thyroid will hyperproduce and will be in a hyperactive state, which is why, as we talked about last time, it is so important if someone is having hyperthyroidism symptoms, it's more important to get those attended to. It's an urgent thing because it can affect the heart, okay? All right, so let's go back to this, to the guide here. So we've talked about these. We talked about why they don't focus on the labs that we're going to talk about today. And one of those reasons, as we've said, is because they don't know how to interpret those labs, or they don't know what to do with them once they've gotten them back. Or they're just going to say, you know what, I'm just a general practitioner. I've only been taught to run the TSH. So, you know, this is out of my wheelhouse. So again, here are the links for those things right here, okay, for the TSH. That's the one I just clicked on. I think it was this one right here, okay? And that, again, is in Stop the Thyroid Madness, which you guys got as a resource when we started last week. I showed you guys that. And so we went over that not all doctors are getting it wrong. You know, many functional medical doctors, naturopaths, and even some conventional doctors are taking medicine in a more progressive and less reactive direction. And what I mean by that, and this is really important for you guys to pay attention to, is that most of the time when someone goes to the doctor and they'll get a TSH that maybe looks borderline abnormal, you might have a doctor that says, hey, you know, your TSH is looking a little bit high here. So let's just keep an eye on it. And then next time you come, we'll test you again. That is reactive. That is reactive medicine, in my opinion. They're waiting until something is seriously wrong, and then they're going to react with medicine, testing invasive things that you probably didn't need to have done when you were looking at that level as it was rising. Okay. Now, one other thing I want to say about TSH is that, when the TSH goes up, it's not necessarily a serious problem, right? The TSH is kind of, it's moody, it's fickle. If you have a stressor, like maybe the weather changes, and I'll use this as an example, someone named Ray Peat, Peat, he's an elusive little character. He's one of the smartest people I've ever had the privilege of talking to or reading with or communicating with. He said that sometimes in the wintertime, his TSH will rise and his thyroid will slow down because he lives in a cold climate and his body doesn't handle cold well. So if you remember when I did the wellness series, stress on stress, right? The body doesn't understand good and bad stress. So when it gets cold out, that can be too much for someone who is used to living in a warm climate or we're used to the warm weather. So the TSH, as that messenger, will tell the body to slow down. We're going into hibernation. It's getting cold out there. And so that level, that TSH number can rise like that. So it's not always a problem. You may just have a higher level. If maybe your body has been sick, your TSH may go up because it's signaling your body to slow down. So, one of the reasons why we're doing these Wednesday webinars is to reduce the panic and fear around sickness, disease, and all of the things that are going on in the world where everyone seems to run off to the doctor for all the answers, and giving you the tools. As a reminder, the power toolbox that I share is, the thermometers, the glucometers, and all of the things that you can do at home before you run off to the doctor to test your health, even things like your adrenals and your blood pressure, blood sugar, and things like that. Okay, so we went over some of these things here. The TSH, we talked about free T4 and free T3 being bioavailable and how important an ultrasound actually is. And yes, many people are afraid of the radiation and having an ultrasound done and don't like to get x-rays and things like that. But if you have indications that you need to have that looked at, you guys, I encourage you to do so because it could be a preventative measure for things getting worse. So sometimes we have to remember that, that conventional medicine is not a bad thing. It's only a bad thing when it's used in ways that can make us sicker, right? So battlefield medicine, when someone's got a wound that needs tending to, or someone is in a chronic state of ill health that is not, it's not resolving with the things that they're doing with support from a health coach or a functional medical doctor. Okay, so here we go. Let's go on. These are all links. So every single one of these, you guys, have been added to this guide to take you out to learn a little bit more about how you can get lab tests online, where you can go to actually order your own labs. You don't even have to have a doctor's order for this, okay? So you can get your lab requisition, is what they're called, by going out to, I'm going to click this link here for a moment, and I'm going to go out and kind of show you what this looks like. When I was doing wellness webinar, which one was it? It might've been number 1, I think, about taking back your health and medical freedom. I shared this link to yourlabwork.com because this is a place where you can actually order labs on your own and save up to 50 to 80% off of what it would be, even if you had insurance. So if you don't have a doctor that's willing to run the labs that you want them to run, which is often the case, especially with conventional medicine, don't be discouraged by it. You can go out to Your Lab Work, and that all of this is in this guide here. You can go out to Your Lab Work and you can order your own labs. Okay. Now, again, the question might be, what do I do with those labs once I get them? There's a link here called the Lab Test Analyzer tool that you can download and bring your labs into that tool that will read those labs for you and help you get a general idea of what's going on. Okay. But I also want to say this too. If you are not in the health and wellness profession, these things can feel overwhelming. They can make things a little bit more stressful. So I'm always encouraging you to look at hiring a health coach to help you with this stuff because they know what they're doing. Okay. They know what they're doing. They can help walk you through this and support you, help you understand things. They're not doctors and they're not going to interpret for you, but they can be that partner that can see things objectively and maybe help you to understand things a little bit better that you couldn't do on your own when you're in a panicked state of mind about your health. All right. Okay. So one of the tips that I like to share with people at home that you can do and that I learned about when I was reading Broda Barnes, who was one of the leading pioneers about health and wellness when it comes to the thyroid, is that you can simply take your morning temperature before you move. Okay. So putting a thermometer at the side of your bed. A lot of people say you have to have a mercury thermometer, basal body temperature thermometer. but a digital thermometer is going to be fine, you guys. So let's not get crazy about it. If that's all you have, set it next to your bed before you even move in the morning, because our body temperature rises, right? Take that thermometer, pop it under your tongue, and just do 2 tests. Get one reading, take it out for a minute or so before you move again, take it again and get another reading, okay? Normal body temperature is above 97.9 degrees, okay? Yes, a normal and body temperature it is 98.6, 98.4 for some people. Some people run a little bit lower, but 97.9 is indicative of a pretty well-functioning thyroid. Now, if it's lower than that repeatedly, and I say do this for 3 days, get an average. If it's lower than that repeatedly, then that could be indicative that your thyroid is slowing down, okay? All right, so we're going to talk about, remember last week I talked about the masters of mimicry, and this is what I call when there are other things going on in the body that can mimic thyroid problems and thyroid symptoms. So low iron, high estrogen, which is also called estrogen dominance, adrenal dysfunction, which some people like to call adrenal fatigue. These can all mimic thyroid symptoms. This is where labs become really important because they can act like a checklist for narrowing down what could be going on. Okay, is everybody tracking me so far? Can you give me some feedback in the chat and make sure that that I'm not going too quick for you and that you're able to follow me? Just tell me all good, because I do talk quick. And yes, thank you, Rennie. Everybody that knows me knows that I'm a fast talker. All right, so let's talk about iron and why it's important to the thyroid. And I'm going to share a little bit of a story about my own experience with this and how I was led to go further down the rabbit hole for myself on my journey of finding out what was going on with me. First and foremost, iron is crucial to good thyroid health. The more scientific explanation is iron deficiency is shown to significantly reduce T4 to T3 conversion. It increases reverse T3 levels, which is indicative of inflammation, and blocks the thermogenic metabolism boosting properties of the thyroid hormone. Okay, thus iron deficiency, as indicated by an iron saturation above 25 or a ferritin below 70, ferritin is your storage iron, will result in diminished intracellular in the cell T3 levels. Remember, T3 is your fuel. If you don't have enough T3, then everything metabolically will start to suffer, okay? So additionally, T4 should not be considered adequate thyroid replacement if iron deficiency is present, okay? Not having adequate iron can render thyroid medication impossible to use and can cause heart palpitations, which can be mistaken for too much thyroid medication, when in reality, the person is extremely hypothyroid with low iron. So just testing the thyroid hormones is not enough. All right, so I'm going to stop here for a moment and I'm going to share a little story to let you guys know that this is very real. This can actually happen and present itself just like this. So I was having heart palpitations at one point. I was taking T4 medication for my thyroid. This is, I don't even know, 11 years ago, 12 years ago, maybe more. And I was having heart palpitations. So I went to my general practitioner. I told her, I think my iron is low. Can we do an iron test? I'm having heart palpitations. She had a minor panic attack, thought I was going to have some heart attack, hooked me up to an EKG, which showed the irregularities on the heart. And hold on a moment, you guys, I got some noise going on. Hold on just a moment. Sorry, you guys, I've got teenagers in the house, so there's a little bit of racket going on. Let me get back to it. Okay, so what happened there was when my heart was palpitating, she got very nervous and sent me to a cardiologist. So I get to the cardiologist freaks out, throws me onto an EKG and wants to do an ultrasound because I have a mitral valve prolapse, which is very common with people with hypothyroidism. I kept saying, I don't need this. I just need my iron checked. I think I just have low iron. But she refused to see me again until I'd had a scan. So 4 weeks went by where I'm still taking the T4. And I started taking an iron supplement, by the way, and my heart palpitations disappeared. They required me to come back in order to continue to be seen by the general practitioner. And what was lo and behold, the cardiologist said, you have some low iron, and I think that's what's causing your problem. Okay. And so I said, thanks for that. I knew that 2 weeks ago, I started taking the iron, but my doctor wouldn't take me back as a patient until I'd seen the cardiologist. So I want you guys to think about the amount of time that was wasted, the frustration on my part, and also, on the general practitioner's part, because when I went back to her and told her what was going on, she literally was like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. Right. So there are so many things that can present themselves. as being a thyroid problem or a heart problem or something else, when in reality, it could just be a small piece that's missing from your minerals or a small piece that's missing from your care. So with an iron lab, it's not enough just to do ferritin, which is very common. Many times your practitioners will just run a ferritin level. Ferritin is your storage iron. So you need to do the iron saturation, the iron serum, the TIBC, and the UIBC. You can click on each one of these and go out and learn all about them for yourself. I'm not going to teach you what you're able to learn on your own. That's part of giving you the independence and freedom to learn those things on your own. So I've also given you some increased link or some different links here to learn more about the importance of iron, and increasing the hem animal source of iron, as well as fixing digestion, should help with those iron storage issues and help prevent anemia. So for the vegetarians out there, if this is something that you are absolutely against eating meat, I understand. I went 23 years without eating pork or red meat and ate very little of anything else for that matter. I was only ever able to even get my thyroid back in a functional space where I felt good when I added the hem iron source in and started eating animal products. So I was also against it all. I'm an animal lover too. My story about that was, that I didn't want to participate in the harming of animals and all of that. So I took my time. I really learned about what's true about all of this, the difference between vegetarianism and eating meat and things like that. I made the decision that my health was more important, and I went ahead and started eating red meat again. And my health actually turned around significantly when I did so. So one of the things that could be the biggest sabotage to your health is to say, I will never do this again. Okay. I will never eat meat again. I will never do this again. When in reality, when your body, is giving you messages, you got to listen to those messages. So the body uses iron to make hemoglobin, a part of our blood cells that carries oxygen to the body. Okay. So remember that now. Oxygen right now, with all the things that are going on out there with the current events of the world, oxygen rich blood is very important. So make sure that you're looking at your iron and taking care of that. All right, another master of mimicry here are sex hormones. And why are they a piece of the puzzle? Well, we live in a world that's wrought with excess estrogen. We're being inundated with phytoestrogens, soy oils and beans, plant-based estrogens, and then xenoestrogens. So phyto means plant-based, right? And xeno means outside the body. Or xenoestrogens, exogenous is outside the body. Xenoestrogens, pesticides, plastics, toxins in our lotions, our body makeups. All of the things, the body products, makeups, everything. So what does that mean for the body as a whole? Well, estrogen dominance causes the liver to produce high levels of a protein called thyroid binding globulin, TBG, which is what was on one of those labs, right? Which, as its name suggests, will bind the thyroid hormone, which will grab the thyroid hormone and decrease the amount of thyroid hormone that can actually be used by your cells. So even if you've got great thyroid hormone conversion and you don't have any low free T4 or low free T3 or anything like that going on, if you've got estrogen dominance and you have a high thyroid binding globulin, that free and available thyroid hormone that you are producing plenty of can be grabbed by that, bound up, and made, the percentage of the hormone getting into the cells will be less. Okay. So this will lead to low thyroid function and all of the negative side effects that come along with it. So a couple more links here to learn a little bit more about how to fix your progesterone to estrogen ratio and how important having healthy sex hormones is going to be when it comes to managing your thyroid. So progesterone ratio should be higher than estrogen to balance out the effects of the excess we are exposed to. So one thing I want to say about that, and I'm not sure if I cover it as we scroll down here, but I want to say this, is that even if you have significant, you have sufficient progesterone, you can still have too much estrogen. So even if you are in menopause and your estrogen is very low, you can still have too much estrogen in comparison to the ratio of progesterone. So you can say, I'm menopausal, my estrogen is bottomed out, I'm not estrogen dominant. That's not the point. The point is do you have more estrogen than you do progesterone? The ratio is always going to be more important. Okay. So a sex hormone panel done by blood should be done on day 21 of a woman's cycle. So we've got the fasting lipid panel. Let's scroll back up real quick though. And I want to share this fun fact for anyone who doesn't know that cholesterol is your precursor to all hormone production. Men, women, everyone needs to have healthy cholesterol levels to have healthy hormones. So, here's the deal. We can look at it. I wish I had a cascade picture to pull up for you guys. Maybe I should just do that real quick. I want to do that. So let me start my share. I want to pull up a cascade for you guys to see. So you can actually put a visual to this, because this was one of the more powerful things. Hold on a moment. Let me pull up an image that I looked at when I was learning about all of this. And I was like, why is no one telling us this information? And why are they telling us to lower our cholesterol? And why are they taking fat out of our diets? I mean, who are these monkeys running this show? So take a look at this. So here is your sex hormone synthesis pathway. You've got cholesterol. This is as basic as it gets, you guys. You've got cholesterol at the very top. So I want you to think about, if you were eating a low-fat diet for years, what do you think happened to your cholesterol? And then that turns into the mother of all hormones, called pregnenolone. And that turns into DHEA, which turns into, and I hate this word, it's very difficult, androstenedione or whatever. Anyway, if I had more time, I could work it out. But you see how these cascade into all of the other hormones that you guys need, right? Okay, so with that said, let's go back to this and let's look at why it's important at least once a year to have a hormone panel done, especially after a certain age. If you're trying to get pregnant, if you feel like you're having symptoms from low hormones, if you are going into premenopause, perimenopause, if you're a man and you've got boobs, if you're a man, that is not normal, and you probably have a lot more estrogen than you need and not enough testosterone. So it's important for everyone to have a sex hormone panel if you've got symptoms or if you're past a certain age. And for me, the testing started right as I was trying to get pregnant, because I was struggling with infertility and could not get pregnant. And then when I did get pregnant, I had a miscarriage. So when we realized that my hormones were so dysfunctional and my thyroid was off, I was able then to get pregnant. So very important, you guys. So we've got your fasted lipid panel, which is going to show you all the important things about cholesterol. And I have done multiple interviews about cholesterol. Jimmy Moore was one of my most recent interviews on cholesterol. He's entertaining, and he's really educated on this, and he's worked really hard to create a book on cholesterol clarity. So if you want to watch that, that's on my YouTube channel. You can watch that training. Then we've got, again, the pregnenolone, mother of all hormones, DHEA, estradiol, free and total testosterone. Same thing goes for the testosterone here. Remember, if it's not free and bioavailable in the blood, then it's not going to get into the cells that it needs to. So total testosterone is the gold standard for testosterone, but free and total testosterone are going to be more beneficial for someone trying to see what's really going on. And then, of course, we've got progesterone and SHBG. A word about SHBG. I must be some anomaly, because my SHBG, sex hormone binding globulin, has always been high, which can render your testosterone useless. Many people with thyroid problems and Hashimoto's and hypothyroidism have a low SHBG. I don't know why mine is off like that. It's been that way for 20 years. I've never figured it out, but it is an important marker, because if you're having a hormone dysfunction or you have low testosterone, and then you don't know what's going on with your SHBG, you may start supplementing with testosterone when in fact you have plenty of it. It's just bound up, right? Just like the TBG, like it gets bound up and it's made unavailable. All right, then we also have the Dutch test. And, since this guide was written many years ago, I've adapted it and changed it to the things that I've learned in the experts that I've interviewed over time. And the Dutch test, I still think it's a great test. But I also think that you can learn a lot from just dried urine testing and blood testing as well. So very interesting that I started out doing blood testing when I was working with my clients, learning about blood and all of that. Went around with the dried urine and the Dutch and the saliva and all of those. And I'm coming full circle back to the importance of blood testing as well. So this just tells you, and if there are any health and wellness coaches on here, or anybody here that thinks that they have to learn everything to be successful in helping people, just when you think you know it all, things change. So don't get married to that idea. We can learn as we go, just like we're doing today. All right, I'm gonna take a sip of this real quick before I start coughing. All right, so soy is a controversial topic. A lot of people say that it's a health food and it's good for your hormones, and a lot of people say that you should avoid it. So for me, I got to tell you, I used to eat a lot of it. I used to eat a great deal of it. I think it might be one of the reasons why I ended up, it's one of the many reasons why I ended up with thyroid problems and autoimmune condition, is because I grew up on soy. Like my mom was a holistic person. She grew she made the bread, the sourdough bread. She grew the sprouts in the window. She made our yogurt. We had a big garden. But we used to have tofu which is soybean curd, right? Fried in soy sauce, y'all, with a side of edamame at times, which is soy, right? So soy with soy and soy, my word. I mean, I'm not surprised that this might have messed with some of my hormones as I was growing up, but that was the thing back then. And she's always been amazing at providing us with, the healthiest things for us as when we were kids. And so who would have second guessed that, right? And I only learned this in 2000 and I think it was 2006 I learned about soy. So, the one thing is this, is that tamari is one exception. So tamari is fermented soy. So I'm going to get into that in just a moment, but I want you to know that, hold on a moment. So here I'm going to pick up. We now know that lower cholesterol is not a good thing, right? Just like soy reduces cholesterol. We now know it's not a good thing because we need it for our hormones, and it carries a little bit more risk than we thought. So Weston A. Price is a fantastic resource for traditional cooking, traditional foods, traditional lifestyles. They have a great big book by Sally Fallon. So click that link and go out and learn about Weston A. Price, because he's got, it's just an amazing institution and a lot of great information. So a couple of things that happen here. High levels of phytic acid in soy reduce the assimilation of calcium, magnesium, copper, iron, and zinc. Super important to have balance in calcium, magnesium, copper, and zinc, and iron, right? Phytic acid in soy is not neutralized by ordinary preparation methods, such as soaking, sprouting, and long, slow cooking. High phytate diets have caused growth problems in children. Now, there's some people out there that say that this is not true, but I like to err on the side of caution. And if it's not any much more trouble to soak things, that's what we do. I soak the seeds and beans and things like that when we cook over here for the most part. So we also have trypsin inhibitors in soy, which interfere with protein digestion and may cause pancreatic disorders. Soy phytoestrogens disrupt the endocrine function and have potential to cause infertility and to promote breast cancer in adult women. So soy phytoestrogens are potent anti-thyroid agents that cause hypothyroidism and may cause thyroid cancer. So just know, you guys, there's a lot more to these types of things. It's not just like, oh, well, I think I'll just have soy once a week or whatever. It can be a cumulative thing where your body just can't handle it. Okay. Soy foods increase the body's requirement for vitamin D, and vitamin B12 analogs in soy are not easily absorbed, and they actually can increase the requirement for B12, which was, to me, that was fascinating. So if you're someone like me who has the mutation on your DNA for MTHFR, which is that mutation of the folate, being able to assimilate folate properly, then you don't want to be eating a lot of soy because your vitamin B is already compromised. Okay, so more resources here and here. And then, as I mentioned, fermented soy, also called tamari, is a good soy alternative. Of course, you can also do coconut aminos and things like that. There's just so many alternatives to soy out there. I see no reason to continue to eat it. Okay, so then we have our third master of mimicry here, which is the adrenal glands, the unconventional testing and reliable resource section here. So, I have to tell you, I was one of those people. I'm guilty of not knowing where the adrenal glands were for the longest time, back when I was trying to figure out what was wrong with me. And I wondered why my upper back was always sore and achy when I was in my most stressful times. Well, there they are, these little purple guys, or these little pink guys that sit on top of the kidneys. So super important, you guys. They play a role in so many things in our lives. So for the thyroid to function properly, the adrenal glands need the attention first. And one of the reasons that is because if our body is under stress, right, by pumping out hormones like cortisol and adrenaline, that amount of stress can put our thyroid and everything else under more significant stress. So the sheer amount of stress we put our adrenals under every day, financial strains, too much exercise, relationship issues, environmental toxins, and so much more, are part of the problem. So I'm sharing some resources here to learn more about adrenal health. And you can I'm going to click on Dr. James Wilson's website. He is an old favorite of mine to refer to. I'm a fan of the people who have kind of led the way. So I'm just going to open this up and show you where these are. So like the Broda Barnes and the Ray Peets and the Wilson therapies and all of that, these people have been on the forefront of all of this. So even though at the beginning of this training, I talked about all of the people that are giving you all this great information about the thyroid and how it's hit the mainstream media and everyone's got a course and a training for it. For me, it's always been a good idea to return back to some of the older things that are, and the older people, some of them not even around with us anymore, that led the way on this information, that pioneered the direction on learning more about the thyroid. So this link will take you out to a lot deeper dive. Again, adrenals and the HPA axis, how your stress response actually works, and so on. So I'm a big fan of understanding. That's why I think education is so important. Understanding why things happen, because otherwise, how are you going to fix them and how are you going to do anything about it, right? If you don't understand why it's happening, then all you're going to be doing more than likely is to put a Band-Aid on something or do what someone else tells you to do without understanding why you're doing it. And what that is giving your power away to something or someone outside of yourself. But when you're educated, which is what I teach my coaches, I tell them all the time, educate your people, help them to get prepared, and then help them to take the action that they need to take to be healthier. Okay. So preparation, education, all of those things are important. All right. Hang on here. So here we go. We've got Dr. Wilson's adrenal fatigue book, Rob Wolf's adrenal fatigue book. I'm not a big fan of the words adrenal fatigue because I think that, yes, they can slow down and they can give us messages like when my back would start to burn if my adrenals were being taxed, of course. Hold on a minute, you guys. I've got the dog under me trying to get herself comfortable. But I don't believe that they actually get fatigued. So Nora DeGaudas was one of the people that actually changed my mind about that. And unfortunately, I don't see a lot of information about Nora DeGaudas out in the world. She's not someone that's in the mainstream. I don't know why, because she's very smart and she talks about the primal paleo lifestyle, traditional eating, and so on. So if you haven't gone down the road of learning about the adrenals from Nora, she's got a great book out there. All right. So we've got lab links here where you can order your own labs, of course, and check those out. You can check your adrenals. You can check your sex hormones. You can check your thyroid. You can do all of that on your own. All right. So let's talk a little bit about iodine. Okay. So again, another kind of controversial mineral here, because a lot of people say that if you have Hashimoto's and you take iodine, then you can actually make things worse. Some people say that you have it because you don't have iodine. And so there's a lot of people out there that are in conflict over this. So this always is going to come back to you. What feels right to you? What are your instincts telling you? What feels good when you do it? If you take the iodine, are you feeling better? If are you feeling worse? We have to be tapped into the messages that our bodies are giving to us and stop listening to anybody outside of ourselves. Okay. So iodine is one of the most important pieces of thyroid health. The thyroid uses it to make hormones. Thyroid cells are the only cells in the body which can absorb iodine. These cells combine iodine and the amino acid tyrosine to make T3 and T4. Again, then T3 and T4 are released into the bloodstream and transported throughout the body where they control metabolism, conversion of oxygen and calories to energy. That's what the meaning of metabolism is. So remember when we started last week when we talked about metabolic health? Metabolic health isn't just weight loss or how high your metabolism is and how fast you lose weight. It's metabolic health for the entire body, how fast your eyelashes grow, your eyebrows, your hair, your skin, how your brain functions, all of it. So unfortunately, our soil today is depleted of iodine and all the other minerals, right? And we have to get it from other sources, such as food or supplementation. As I mentioned, there's a lot of controversy around that. So I included a two-part article by a man who did an extensive study on iodine and Hashimoto's. I wish I could remember what his name is, but it's on the Perfect Health Diet website. And I encourage you also, if you listen to my whole food webinar, when I was talking about whole food being one of the 7 essentials, I referenced the Perfect Health Diet by Paul Jaminet, Jaminet. So it's called the Perfect Health Diet because it includes, it takes out all the stuff that's bad for us, right? All the stuff, the gluten, the soy, and all of those things. But it doesn't just remove everything. It allows a little bit of alcohol, allows a little bit of chocolate if you're tolerant of it. And he allowed this guy to, Mario was the guy's name, just came to me. But he did an article about this. So if you're going to take iodine, I would read that article and I would actually get a test. So I would test your iodine levels first. And then I would also learn about, again, this article right here about selenium and how important it is to have good, healthy levels of selenium when you're supplementing with iodine. So we've got an affordable test right here. And I'm not affiliated with the Hakala lab test, but Hakala, Hakala, right here. Let's actually click on it and make sure. Hold on a moment. Actually, let me read this to you guys first. So bromide and iodine have similar molecular structures, and therefore they compete for the same binding sites. The similarity can cause bromide to bind to iodine receptors and possibly interfere with iodine transport in the body. So we're kind of seeing a common theme here, aren't we? We're seeing where, things can come in and almost like thieves in the night, grab the things that we need to be healthy. So if there's something going on where you have too much bromide, and that's in carpet, it's in your new car, it's in car seats that children sit in, bromide is everywhere and it's a halide. And if you have, let's just say you have bromide and you have iodine, and you've got too much bromide in your system and maybe not enough iodine, or maybe you've got enough iodine. If you've got too much bromide in your system, they're in competition and they are racing for that receptor on your thyroid. And whoever gets there first or has the most power is going to make it into the thyroid. We want iodine to make its way in, not bromide. Okay. Bromide blocks that receptor where iodine cannot get in. And then there we are again with not enough iodine. So I want to click that link and make sure, let's open it up, that they're still doing, so yes, wonderful. Oh, wow. They've updated their site. So here's a whole list of information. Fantastic. You know, what goes on with bromide, what happens to your body. So bromide is the reduced form. It says the halogen family is comprised of iodine, bromine. Bromide is the reduced form, fluorine and chlorine, right? Does that sound familiar? So we've got fluoride, bromide, right? Chlorine. So, and a few others. So while iodine has many benefits, bromide competes for those binding sites. There we go. So same thing we just read in the guide. So please spend some time learning a little bit about that. And then you can order your lab. I'm pretty sure you can order it still directly from them. And they've got all kinds of wonderful resources on iodine tablets. Why would you take the Lugo tablets? I am not necessarily a super fan of taking Lugos. I think sometimes it can be a little bit too much. So I think a reliable source of iodine, maybe from Trace Minerals or something like that, that comes in a dropper, that you're able to control how much you take. And remember this, and I'm not giving you advice on taking iodine. I'm just telling you what works for me and what I would do if I were you, if you were dealing with low iodine and you get that back on your test, is play with it a little bit, right? Start with the absolute minimal dose of anything when you're starting to take new supplements and things like that. And then you watch for symptoms and you watch for tolerance over a period of 3 to 4 days, sometimes a week. Are you getting symptoms that make you feel worse? Is that something that has to do with detoxifying the body? Is it helpful? Are you feeling better? Is it too much to do every day? Do you need to go to every other day or once a week, right? So many times people get stuck on the idea that if you're on a supplement of any kind, that you should take it every single day, that you need to take it every day. But sometimes that's just too much for some people. So don't be afraid to listen to your body and do the things that work for you. Okay. All right. So let's take a look at the Q&A real quick. Would I recommend, Rennie is asking, using hair mineral testing, hair analysis when suspecting hypothyroid? No, I would recommend doing a blood test for hypothyroidism for sure. I was into the HTMA testing back in 2009 or 10. And in fact, was working with someone who said, if I didn't start to eat red meat, she wouldn't work with me. That was back in, I don't remember, I think that was the year, because my levels, my minerals were so off. And that's what we learned through that. But we used blood, and she wanted to see my blood work for my thyroid. And that was, you know, she was either a coach, a practitioner, I can't remember, but she was authorized to read hair mineral analysis testing. So that's what her recommendation was. And I stick with that as well. So Margaret says, if after menopause, you're welcome, Rennie. Does it matter when you get your thyroid testing done, since you're no longer having my monthly cycles? I've heard conflicting opinions. So no, thyroid testing can be done anytime at all, Margaret, any time of the month. It doesn't matter. Now, when it comes to your hormones, I got to move this over. When it comes to your hormones and your sex hormones post-menopause, if you're on the Wiley protocol, they like to test on the days that we talked about, like day 21. If you're just taking hormones or you're trying to figure your hormones out, it really doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter. You're going to just get a baseline anyway. All right. So let's talk about preparing for the doctor. So I did a training on this about how to have a successful doctor's appointment. And now more than ever, guys, it's really important that you are up to speed on how to have conversations with your doctors that are effective, and how to ask the right questions and get the right labs and get the right information. And so, you know, if you want to go back and watch my training on that, it was another one of our Wednesday wellness trainings. You can learn about what that looks like and how to set yourself up for success, because it can be a little bit intimidating. So the most important part is just to be prepared. So as I mentioned in the successful doctor appointment training, get a morning appointment or appointment after lunch, bring a medical history, bring your medications, bring a requested list of labs so you can refer to this guide and go and write those labs down that you want to get done. Just bring somebody if you are maybe a little bit brain fogged from your thyroid not working properly, and you just want that extra support. if you are diagnosed, here's a note, okay? If you are diagnosed with thyroid disease, and that means this, if you go to a general practitioner and they run a TSH, remember the gold standard, and they say, oh, your TSH is high, they're going to refer you to an endocrinologist, because most of the time they don't want to deal with it and they don't know how to deal with it. So be prepared for that referral. However, if you go to a functional medical doctor, they may not send you out or refer you to an endocrinologist. They may be more comfortable working with you with that, and they're able to prescribe medications and the things that you may need as well. But just being prepared for that. So I stopped seeing endocrinologists when I realized that, they didn't really have the knowledge that I needed them to have about lifestyle and food, environmental toxins, estrogen, adrenals, and all of those things. It became a waste of time. And then my famous story about the endocrinologist that was short with me and within 4 minutes told me I was going to be on thyroid medication for the rest of my life until I die. So that was cheerful. And I promptly fired her and thanked her for her time in not so pleasant of a way. So if you want to stay with your current doctor, but they're resistant to helping you, you can find a new doctor. There's a link here. If you've had enough of a doctor who's not helpful and you want a constructive way to voice your feelings, a letter template can be found at this link here. But once again, you guys, I encourage you, look into hiring a health coach and working with someone who can help you get organized around all of this, because the amount of stress that our bodies can go under when our mind tells us that something is wrong can make things so much worse. Okay. So you could have a subconscious fear and stuff going on in circles and ruminations, not even realizing it, and not be completely prepared and understanding what you're going in for. So again, find a partner in your health. So let's talk about the medications for just a moment. Okay, so yeah, medications chapter. We got about 15 minutes left, maybe a little less. So Synthroid is the generic brand of T4 called levothyroxine. It's the most commonly prescribed medication for hypothyroidism. This would not be a bad idea if everyone converted T4, again, the storage hormone, into T3, the energy our cells need, the fuel. However, when someone gets to the point where they need medication to support the thyroid, the body is typically in an ill state of health in some form or fashion, you guys. And the ability to convert these hormones can be compromised. Remember when we talked about the estrogen dominance, and the liver is where we do a lot of our converting, okay? So most conversion takes place in the gut and the liver. If the gut is leaky or the liver is full of toxins, estrogen is one of them, if it's too much, and working extra hard, conversion can be slow or non-existent. So this leaves a medicated patient, remember, medicated with T4, Synthroid, levothyroxine, feeling worse despite taking a hormone they have been told their body needs. So I want you to think about this when we did the chart last week. T4 turns into T3, which is your fuel. If a person is taking the pill of T4, levothyroxine, and they are unable to convert that into energy, into fuel, into the T3 to get into the cells, it's basically just taking a storage hormone and it's going nowhere, and you're not getting the help that you need. Many natural and synthetic options available for medication. And some doctors don't believe in prescribing anything natural and truly believe that Synthroid is the gold standard, and I disagree. So you can click here for more information about why it would be inadequate, which I just explained to you, but you can take your learning further by that link to only take T4 medication. Now, I want to say this too as a caveat. I went through all of the medications. I tried them all. I was the guinea pig that ordered medication from a pharmacy in another, that was not, it wasn't a pharmacy I should have been using. Let's just say I ordered it from a pharmacy that allowed me to order my own medication. And I did a T3 protocol to see, was I converting? Did I just need the T3 to get through? I did the natural medications like Armor and Nature-Throid and WP Thyroid and all of them, and did not do well on them. So there's many reasons why people don't do well on natural thyroid medication and need the synthetic version. So I believe it's completely up to the client to decide what's best for them. And the only way to do this is to figure out through trial and error. A couple things to consider when choosing your medication. Are you sensitive to fillers? Some people can tolerate the hormone, but not the fillers. So lactose, Avicel, cellulose, all of those types of things, microcrystalline, stearic acid, all of those fillers. Really what they are is just the inactive ingredients that carry the active ingredient in the little capsule into the body or in the tablet to compound that tablet. So you need to know what's in those ingredients and what's in the medication that you have been prescribed. So if someone prescribes you Synthroid, then go out and learn, and let's click this link and take a peek at it. I'm just going to take that little booger off of there so we don't have to do that every time. And let's just look here. So ingredient binders and fillers and medication. So this is a thyroid, a Synthroid label. So it, and it's really, really small. I wonder if that's not inactive ingredient. So you can take this and read it further here where it talks about you don't want to have any gluten, no soy, no corn, no dairy, and colors and dyes and any additives, because even if you're that's the right thyroid hormone for you and those fillers are not good for you, that's going to cause a problem, and it can inhibit you from using the thyroid hormone properly. So take your time, go through here. Okay, here's an example. All right, Synthroid. Let's talk about this real quick, you guys. So the inactive ingredient, active ingredient, levothyroxine. Inactive ingredient, acacia, which is confectioner's sugar containing cornstarch, lactose monohydrate, magnesium stearate, povidone, I don't even know what that is, and talc. Yes, talc. And then below that, you'll see color additives. FD&C yellow number 6, FD&C red number 40, FD&C blue number 2. So factoring in those inactive ingredients is, as he says, becomes quite obvious that taking synthetic T4 is not identical to your thyroid hormone. Because when you throw dyes and fillers and all of that other stuff in with that actual hormone, you're actually reducing the ability of that hormone to do its job. So as he mentions here, Dr. Hagmeyer, this is a great article. Shannon added this. I haven't seen this before. But when someone experiences an increase in symptoms upon taking the thyroid hormone, it could be the intolerance to the ingredients. So if you have sensitivities to corn, if you have sensitivities and intolerance to gluten and sugar and all of those things, and you're taking your medication and you're eating those fillers, that could cause a problem, right? Okay, so again, just take your time, go through here, Cytomel, Armor, Nature Throid, all of those things. And then a very important question, and I'll stop the share on this screen and go back to the guide. One of the things that you need to be really, really clear on is that gluten actually shares a molecular makeup, and I don't know the exact scientific terms of it, but they're very similar in chemical makeup. So if you're eating gluten and you have a thyroid problem, every single time that you eat that, you're telling your thyroid, you're basically sending out an attack on the thyroid. So anybody that's been diagnosed with any thyroid problems, it is my number one suggestion is to get off the gluten. Of course, gluten to me it's toxic and inflammatory anyway. It causes all kinds of problems with the endocrine system, the gut, the skin, the brain, all of those things. So to me, it's unnecessary. It does nothing but make food sticky and gooey and create an addiction in your brain, because believe it or not, gluten can light up your dopamine receptors, just like sugar, alcohol, cigarettes, and drugs. So if something's going to light those receptors up and offers you no nutritional value, is that something you really think is a good idea, right? So best advice, there's so much food out there now that's gluten-free. Even if you just go to gluten-free things to get started, please consider making that change. All right. So staying here, compounded medications are available with benign fillers for more sensitive patients. So when you have a compounded medication called in, compounded means that they create that medication specifically for your needs. So it might look something like this. I need to be taking T4. I would like to have that T4 compounded with no fillers. I've got a pharmacist that actually does that. Or fillers that I know I can tolerate, like lactose is something that I don't have. I don't struggle with lactose. So maybe they use that for a filler. Or maybe they don't need a filler at all because they put it in a capsule and it doesn't need to have a carrier with it. Okay. So be educated on those fillers. If you're sensitive to those things, there's medication that can be compounded for you to meet your needs. All right. Are you able to tolerate thyroid medication? As I mentioned, some people can't handle the energy of medication because of low iron, poor adrenal function. So if your adrenals are slow, sluggish, slowing down from stress from the weather, or sickness, or finances, or anything that causes stress, then when you take that medicine, it increases the metabolic energy in your body, which can then tax your thyroid or your adrenal glands. Okay, that's why we say if there's something going on with the adrenals and then something with the thyroid, work on the stress to the adrenals first before you throw extra added fuel onto the thyroid. That makes sense to everybody. I learned that one the hard way too. Okay. Do you have religious beliefs about pork? Many natural thyroid medications are made from porcine glands. A porcine gland is the actual gland from a pig. Okay. Okay. So this is one of the first ways that they started treating thyroid problems. I don't have the year on this. It's a long, long, long time ago. And thus the flip-flop with synthetic medications was because Big Pharma came on the scene and realized, oh, we can make a synthetic form of this. This doesn't have to be a natural thing. We can benefit from this and we can monetize on this. So then what they ended up doing was saying that natural medications and natural thyroid gland from the pig, porcine gland, is now no longer effective because look, we have this synthetic pill for you to take, which they make a lot of money on because the thyroid is most affected by environmental toxins in our food. Well, what did they do to our food? They made our food toxic. They've made our environment toxic. We now have we have fluoride in our waters, right? Fluoride in our water. We have no minerals, no iodine in our soil. Thank you to the powers that be that have stripped our foods, our soil of all of the necessary minerals and things that we need to be healthy, and replace it with all the crap, the gluten, the soy, all of the things, the fluoride, the things that we don't need. And then tell us that we need synthetic medication and that the natural thyroid medication that used to work beautifully many years ago is no longer that is now hocus pocus. Okay. So I want you to think about what's going on here. When we talk about establishing our health and medical freedom, we need to go back in time and we need to educate ourselves about when did all of this really start happening. It's not just enough to put a band-aid of medication on things, because what that means is that you're just doing what someone else is telling you to do. Okay. So here are a few more things to be familiar with. You can look at for looking at medications and making a good decision for yourself. Okay, we only have about 4 minutes left. I think we should stop right here on what to do while waiting for an appointment, lab results or referral. Does anybody have any questions? And so far, is all of this pretty easy to understand? I want to know from you guys, and welcome to all of you who came in late. I want to know if it's helpful, because the goal is that you are a person that can speak for yourself. You can make decisions for yourself. You tap into your own instincts and intuition about what feels good for you, and that you are armed and dangerous going into your doctors or to the pharmacist to have these conversations about what's going on with our food, what's going on with our medication. Why are they trying to push these things on us when there are things out there that could help us? So I'm going to just recap this, and then I'm going to look at the Q&A. And I want to just say this as a, something to kind of take home when we hang up here today is, take a look around, go into your makeup and your beauty products, go into your lotions, and go into your garage and look at your bug sprays and all the pesticides, and look in your pantries, your refrigerators. Do a good tour of your home. Bring a notepad with you. Get an empty, these things that people used to use that I still do, paper and pen, and walk around and write under each one of those things the things that you think could be replaced with something healthier, or the things that you think that could be making you sick, or that could be adding to your thyroid problem, or your health, your sex hormone problem, or your low iodine, or your low iron, or anything that you're dealing with today. Think about the things that you're putting on your skin, which is your largest organ that goes right into your bloodstream. Think about the water that you just, and this is Pellegrino, but do you brush your teeth from your sink and then drink that sink water at night to rinse your mouth out, and then take a drink to take your melatonin or whatever it is before you go to bed? Everything that you do in your home has the potential to make you healthier or sicker. So do an inventory of that. And then I don't remember which webinar it was for the series, but again, please go to YouTube and watch all of the Wellness Wednesday webinars. It's to empower you guys. In there, I talk about making a health wish list and putting it on your refrigerator. And that health wish list has no boundaries. It has no limits. It has, it doesn't matter how much something costs. It doesn't matter how far-fetched it is. If you want to put hardwood floors through your entire house, which is one of the things that was on my wish list to get the bromide out of my home, you write it down and create a wish list for each room in your house that can help you to work towards those goals. So for example, if you want to replace anything that you used to use for anti-inflammatories, I've got this amazing Peace Cream, right, by Amanda at Yum Naturals. Anti-inflammatories like cortisone and all of those toxic things we buy at the pharmacy. If you don't go throwing everything out, don't go crazy and stress yourself out and make your partner or your spouse angry with you for having to go replace everything expensively. Keep it in place, write it down. I would like to replace my face lotion. This is what I would like to get instead. When you run out of the face lotion, buy something new and healthier for you. This is what I would like to use for weed killer. Instead of this, I would like to do this. When you run out of what you got, replace it. Something like that. So try not to pressure yourself with doing too much at one time. Create that health wish list. And when you've made it a permanent part of your life, cross it off the list. When it's something you're never going to go back on and do differently ever again. For example, I will never, ever, ever use fluoride toothpaste again, ever, ever. because it will absolutely destroy your endocrine system. It will flood your body with fluoride. Fluoride is one of the most toxic things that you can ingest. It goes right into your mouth. And I've had people say, well, I'm not going to do that because I don't swallow my toothpaste. Well, guess what? This is a mucous membrane. Your mucous membranes absorb everything you put into it, and it goes right into your bloodstream. If you're using toothpaste with fluoride, that fluoride goes right into your bloodstream. And where does that fluoride go? It goes to your thyroid to block that receptor for the iodine that's trying to make its way into your thyroid to give you good health. Okay, you guys? So everything makes a difference, but the number one thing that undoes all efforts is stress. So please go back and watch. I believe it was the first webinar I did after the introduction to the health and medical independence freedom series that we're doing here is stress perception. If you are getting stressed out by having to replace everything in your pantry or your beauty products, and you're getting yourself all in a twist about it, you're not going to be doing yourself any favors, because as we talked about today, when the adrenal glands are under stress, they don't function as well, right? They don't function as well. And that affects our thyroid as well as everything else, our sex hormones and everything else. So when you're making changes for your life, when you are taking steps forward, do them in bite-sized pieces, make sure it's palatable. It's something that you feel good about. It's something that you feel is manageable and sustainable for life. And it's not something that you are going to feel worse about. That's the most important part. Way too much emergency stuff going on around health. Okay, anonymous attendee. Thank you for this great information. Where can I find a copy of your notes with the links to click on? It's in the guide. It goes out with the replay. I wish I had it pulled up. Let me grab it for you. Thyroid guide. Here we go. And along with the guide comes the training. It comes with the video training. It's very similar to what we're doing here today. And all of the links are in there. So let me drop this down into the chat for you guys, and you can grab this and hold on a moment. There we go. I think that's it. Okay. And then it's got links to health coaches in the back of the guide as well, if you're interested in looking at health board certified health coaches that know what they're doing, right? Margaret said, can you post the source of the cream you just mentioned? Yes, Margaret, I absolutely can. Hold on a moment, you guys, and I'll do that for you. I'll show you this real quick. Let me hold it up so you can see the label. Hold on. So the label is, hold on, I'm trying to catch the light. DMSO Peace Cream. Now this is anti-inflammatory cream. Oh, darn it. And it's by Yum Naturals Emporium. Amanda Vollmer is actually one of the people. I'm going to grab the link for you guys too, real quick. Hold on. She's one of the people that is a speaker in our Seeking and Speaking Your Inner Truth group that I am in with my partner, Diane Kaiser, where we talk about all the current events and what's going on today. And we're over there talking about everything. I mean, all the stuff, you guys, all the controversial current information, current event stuff. Amanda is one of our guests that comes in and talks about the power of plant medicine, what's going on in the world with vaccines and all of that stuff. And she gave us a coupon code. So the Yum Naturals store, she has all natural stuff that she forages herself. So she goes out, she picks the plants, she creates the recipes for it. I've been using it for months. I got a box of DMSO magnesium cream today, face cream and all that good stuff. And I absolutely love it. So I'm going to put in here, the Truth Tribe is your code. You guys, I think they give us 10% off. So type it all together, Truth Tribe, when you check out, and it'll give you a discount. Josie's saying, is Diane Kaiser a health coach? Yes, she's a health coach, just like me and some of our people that are on here today. We are health coaches. And many of us have a lot of information that, even conventional doctors have never heard of before, that is able to help people to avoid, even going on medication. So there's so much you can do. There's lots of natural thyroid supplements out there that don't even need a prescription, that can support the adrenals, can support your stress response, and support the thyroid at the same time. So, all right. So I will check the chat and make sure that all is good and nobody dropped any questions in there. And then we'll wrap up and meet again next Wednesday. And I see some of my coaches talking. Yay. Yes, yes, yes. So you guys, there's coaches on here. So please, when you get the replay, go to the links, because in the replay, you don't have to get the guide to get a coach. There's in the replay, I have links to finding my health coaches out there, and they're ready to work with you guys for sure. Like Tiffany says, make sure you interview any doctor. That's part of the Successful Doctors series. Interview your doctors and their staff. If you don't resonate with them, find a new doctor for sure. Okay. Rennie says, thank you so much. This is amazing. You're welcome. You're welcome. Teresa. Yeah. The guide is in the link below. And my coaches also use that guide. So anybody that's been through my institute and is a coach, that's a guide that they use with their clients too. So if you're someone that wants to work with a coach, they've got the guide as well. Okay. Jane said the information extremely helpful, a lot to take in, and you speak rather fast. Yeah, Josie, I do, because you can see how much information, right? And I, it's funny. I'm a Midwesterner, so I'm on high speed because I've got a lot of information to share. And in the past, when I started doing webinars back in I want to say it's 2012, I think, or 2013, I asked, I'm like, is this speed too much for you? And the feedback was, no, it's perfect, because I can absorb this information and go back and watch the replay. So I hope that's the case for you as well. All right, you guys, thanks so much for being here. I love it, love it, love it. Thank you, Teresa. I appreciate the nice comments. You guys, Q&A, don't want to miss anyone. Is there a fee for the notes? I clicked on the link. Yeah, the guide, it is for sale, but it comes with your 3 training videos. It comes with the guide, and all of the links that are in the guide will take you out. I mean, it's so affordable. This is, you guys, this is 15 years of my work. And I don't think the guide is like, I don't even think it's like $37 or something like that. I don't need $47. So it took me over a year and a half to write, and almost probably 10 years of studying to put together. So, and it comes with training as well. So anyway, or you can hire a health coach that actually has the guide and can work with you. Those are some options for you. All right, you guys, 3 o'clock next Wednesday, we're going to wrap up the guide. It's going to be open for Q&A at the end. So as you're watching the replay, if you have questions, write them down. Bring your own personal questions about your health. I'll do my best to guide you. We'll go a little bit longer so that I can meet your needs that way and hopefully offer you some insight. But just know, if I don't know the answer, I'm going to tell you I don't know. And then if I do support you in any way, just know I'm not your doctor and I'm just giving you educational advice. So that's my disclaimer. Have a fantastic rest of the day, and I'll see you guys next week.